So I want to tell you guys a little story of the anatomy of a deal that died on my desk at 11 p.m. at night. It was a Thursday. I'd been on this deal for about 3 months at this point. The models was built, the materials were done. We were days away from finishing the term sheet and signing, and the deal called. My director was in the office, and I still get a little emotional about this. It lasted maybe 90 seconds, but the only lender we knew, and after exhausting every resource, they said they can't do it. Their committee didn't allow them to fund this. Weeks of works, month of works gone over something that was boring. And I wanted to walk you through exactly how a deal dies, not the glamorous version and the pitch, the real one, because the night a deal collapsed taught me more about how banking actually works than any model ever did. And I do think there's a lot of very valuable life lessons that I learned from this process. So let me take you to the beginning, because the beginning is always, the same: total optimism. It was a trade financing situation where we were going to basically fund oil and gas commodity trading. It's a very complicated, convoluted thing, industry I knew nothing about prior to this deal, and honestly, it was really interesting. On paper, the deal, everyone would have made a lot of money had it gone through. It looked cool. It looks great to everyone in the room. When a deal kicks off, there's this very specific energy. The senior banker has sold it internally to members of the bank, to your deal team, and to the client. Everyone believes it's happening. Your job as a junior is to start building the models, the materials, and there's something genuinely somewhat exciting about it. You work on a real transaction with real money. You don't know anything of what determines whether this closes, and you also don't know what actually has any of that to do with you. Then comes the part the pitch never shows you, the grind, weeks of diligence going through the target's financials, or in this case, the company's financial line by line, building an insanely detailed three-statement models with different toggles, different, financing solution switches, et cetera, et cetera. And finding things that don't add up. Revenue, revising everything once new things come in, et cetera. And here's the thing I didn't understand early on. Almost none of this is in your control. A deal depends on parties you don't speak to. The lender deciding to finance it, the other side advisors, the Q of E team. You're doing intricate, exhausting work on top of a foundation that any one of those people can just pull out from under you at any moment. But you don't think about that. You think about your model, because your models are the thing. Because those are the only part you can actually touch. And without meaning to, you start to care whether this thing happens or not. Unfortunately, you shouldn't be, but I'm emotionally invested in, one of my deals right now. We just got IOIs. We got 15 IOIs on a really good asset, great valuation ranges. But I do know there's something that could come up. We could choose the wrong buyer in LOI now, and it might just not close. But I'm confident on this one. Knock on wood. Um, but yeah, that's the texture of real deal work. It's not glamorous. It's care applied relentlessly to something you do not control whether it happens. And you make your stuff look pretty, auditable, readable, everything. But as a junior, you don't have any control. Then for this specific deal, there were signs, and there's always are in hindsight. So in our case, the Mexican government changed the fuel regulations for basically fuel transloading. I'm not going to bore down the details, but it shut down this company's legacy business, and we were trying to basically do venture funding for a commodity trade. Kind of difficult thing to quantify when you don't have receivables to underwrite from a stable business generating, 15 million of EBITDA. At the time we explained each of this. It's like, oh, well, they just need financing for 60 days and we can get it. But you explain all of this, and that's the trap. The closer you are to the finish, and after putting in months of work on this one deal, the more motivated you become to ignore those cracks of like, hey, this might not happen because, the Mexican government just changed the entire country's, rules and regulations. This is a real lesson about deals, and honestly, a lot of things. Proximity to the finish line distorts your judgment to anything. The work you've already put in makes you want to believe, and wanting to believe is exactly when you stop seeing clearly. The deal was telling us it was in trouble, and we were way too far in to listen. And I do think you can carry this to other aspects of your life as well. And then the Thursday, 11 p.m., the call, financing fell through. And the thing that struck me, and that still strikes me, is how fast it was. Weeks of work, hundreds of hours, and everything. And it ended in 2 minutes on a phone call. No drama, almost mundane. A call, room went quiet, and that's how the deal died. Not in some cinematic blow up in a quick anticlimactic phone call, usually over something structural and very unglamorous that none of us could control. No drama at all. The model was right. The work was good. None of it mattered because the deal died on variables outside of my control. So what happened to all of that work? Nothing. It goes into a folder and I use it as reference material sometime when I'm building a new model, I'm building a new deck, or I'm looking for how do we organize a folder in this process. And the first time that happens, it feels like a kind of grief because you cared about it and it led to nowhere, and you put in a lot of work and it just led to nowhere. But here's some things I took from it and why I tell any junior to want to live through a dead deal early. 3 things. First, analytical excellence does not close deals. Process risk does most of the deciding, and process risk lives way outside of your control. If you tie your sense of competence to outcomes, this job and life in general will break you because you lose deals on things you did everything right on. Second, and this took me a while, you have to learn to care about the work and not the outcome. Do the model beautifully because that's who you are, not because the deal will close. Detachment from the result is not laziness. On this job, it's survival because so many results are not yours to determine. And third, the deal died, the reps didn't. The modeling I did, the late nights I did, the lender calls I did, everything that I did will live on and help me master the basics even more and improve my speed on the next one I do. The relationships I built with that team outlasted that transaction. That work that led nowhere was still building me. Dead deals are some of the best trainings you'll ever get because nobody's watching the outcome and watching you mess up a million times in the middle. Banking looks like a series of glamorously closed deal in a highlight reel on tombstones or on a LinkedIn repost. It's actually mostly this. Long, careful work on transactions, a lot of which die quietly on 11 p.m. on a random Thursday on something you never control. The people who last aren't the ones who win every deal. They're the ones who can pour themselves into the work, watch it die, archive the folder, and start the next one the same morning. That's the part no one really tells you. This job isn't about closing deal. It's about doing excellent work on everything, even deals that might not close, and being okay with that. Learn that early on a deal that doesn't matter, and you'll be fine when it's one that does matter. I think you can take this lesson and apply it to entrepreneurship, apply it to relationships, apply it to dating, apply it to your life, and just genuinely realize there is a lot outside of your control. Do the best you can. Don't attach too much to the outcome and attach your sense to the work, but not the result. Yeah, that's this one. That was a story time. So like, comment, subscribe for the next one. I think the next one will be how I learned the closing of a deal is much less glamorous than it is because it is just a phone call with lawyers and wires transferring. But yeah, thank you all for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe for the next.